Welcome to part 10 of They Love the Antichrist because they love not the truth. Getting on into this footage.
3. The following things will go into effect. Abolishes cash bail for almost every offense. This includes, but isn't limited to, kidnapping, armed robbery, second-degree murder, drug-induced homicide, aggravated DUI, threatening a public official, and aggravated fleeing and eluding.
That's the mayor of a suburb of Chicago on a new Illinois bail reform law that will take effect the 1st of January. That will make Illinois the first state, remember we talked about cities, but this is the first state now in the country to eliminate bail entirely for a lot of crimes that he just mentioned, robbery and arson, even kidnapping, and some murder charges. The mayor is Keith McCaw. He's also running for Congress in the 6th district there in Illinois. Sir, good morning to you, and thank you for your time. I imagine at the moment there's no way you can stop this. How can you warn the people of your state, as we have seen example after example in various American cities so far?
Well, I think the way we warn them is exactly what we're doing now on board floors throughout the suburbs. We've been passing resolutions to let the towns know, let their legislators know that this law needs to be repealed. And the most important thing that voters can do is vote these people out of office so that on January 3rd, when new legislators come into power, they can overturn this horrible law.
Let's show everybody the list where you can get zero bail. Okay, kidnapping, burglary, robbery, arson, drug-induced homicide, aggravated DUI, even second-degree murder, and threatening of a public official. The governor there is a very left-wing Democrat, Governor Pritzker. Is he listening to any of you?
He is not listening to us on this, and historically he doesn't really listen to any of us. He does what he feels like. He did the same thing through COVID and didn't listen to us. So it's not a surprise that he's not listening, and it's also not a surprise that they passed this back in January of last year and waited till January of 2023 to put it into effect. It's because they knew the impact that this was going to have, and they didn't want to be running an election after seeing the impact of such a horrible law.
You know, sir, but you got to think that people in Illinois are paying attention to that story in Memphis, where that mother of two was out jogging at 4 o'clock in the morning. She's now dead. The guy who's accused of killing her, he should have...
Okay, crazy question on my part. Why is she running at 4 o'clock in the morning? Was something chasing her that she's going to be out running at 4 o'clock in the morning? I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to figure out, why is decent people out at 4 o'clock in the morning? Terrible things are occurring in this world. And now is not the time for us to be out and about, running around and all hours of the night. For we are children of the light. We're not supposed to be out at night running around doing things. And, you know, it's still usually dark 30 around 4 o'clock. So why in the world would you be out running at that time of morning? I mean, I know people's got to work things in. It's called run in place in your house if you've got to. Jog to the house, in the house, around the house, in the yard. Why are you out running at 4 o'clock in the morning? Off by yourself. I mean, I could see if you were doing it with a group or at least another friend or two. But in the violence that's going on nowadays, it does not pay to be less than 2 or 3 people.
Been behind bars.
Just had to ask.
And the same thing happened for this mass shooter just within 36 hours later.
That was in my mind and in my heart.
Why do those who support this law, why do they want it in Illinois?
I have no idea why someone would want this. It clearly puts citizens and police officers at risk in the favor of criminals who are violent, and puts us all at risk. And it gets worse than just being released on bail. When this goes into effect, January of 2023, you will not be allowed, a police officer will not be allowed to remove someone from your property for trespassing. They can take residence in your shed, your pool, in a business, and all they can do is ticket someone. By law, they're not going to be allowed to touch someone and remove them from those premises. Think about how dangerous that will be with people taking the law into their own hands.
What does the Bible say?
Think about how dangerous that's going to be. And the more that these laws like this are passed and allowed to occur, how dangerous is this world going to become? Now, if you all still want to stay here, you're welcome to, but I'm praying my Lord comes right here right shortly. Because let me tell you, I am not loving the lawlessness that's coming around. And let me remind you that because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Church, you better not be letting your love light grow out. Better not let that love light go out. Better hold on to it. You better be praying daily that the Lord stoke that fire and keep that love light burning. Yep. Better be praying.
Christ will have the ultimate
Here's
victory
one coming up
and will
that you're really
eliminate
going to love.
lawlessness
Socialists.
forever.
All right, AOC-backed candidate
Yeah.
Christine Gonzalez is promising a socialist wave of candidates after her primary win for New York State Senate.
We really proved that socialism wins. Anywhere, we are not going anywhere, and we will not stop until we see a socialist flag across this city.
Our next guest escaped socialism in Venezuela and survived Mao's communist revolution in China. Daniel DiMartino and Xi Van Fleet join us now with their message for America. Xi, I'm going to start with you. These are young people who are touting socialism. Socialism wins. Tell us what it really means to live in an authoritarian state like that.
Yeah, I just want to say it's so ironic. 36 years ago, I ran away from socialism. When I left China, come to this great country for freedom. Today, so many Americans abandoning freedom and ran into socialism. They have no idea what socialism is about. I lived under Mao's socialism. When the government controls everything, make all the decisions, big and small, it decides how much grain, meat, cooking oil I could have, what I should learn in school, where I should live, and what job I should have, and how I should think. In the socialist society I lived under, there's no choices, there's no freedom. And that's what people do not know. Socialism becomes such a diluted word, and it's intentional. I can tell you, China is a socialist country, Cuba is a socialist country, and so is North Korea. They are socialist country run by communist parties. And what's the difference? What's the difference between socialism and communism? Not much. Socialism is the initial stage of communism, according to Karl Marx.
Yeah, you're so right. Thank you for reminding us about that. Daniel, tell us about your experience living under socialism in Venezuela.
I think my experience should scare Americans because I used to have a middle-class family life like most of the people watching did and do. And we went from having cars, from having a home, from going to school every day, to not having electricity, to me having to line up for food, to the government telling me which day of the week I could go to the grocery store. That is what socialism did to Venezuela. The voters don't understand that in New York, and that's why Christine Gonzalez won. But the scary part is that she does know what she's supporting. In fact, the organization that supports her, the New York City Democratic Socialists of America, sponsored an event in New York City that I attended to protest because they brought 3 people who work for the Maduro regime to advocate against U.S. sanctions to these corrupt members of the regime that oppresses my nation. So these people claim that they want to turn America into Denmark, but then they meet with Venezuela's dictator, not with the Danish prime minister. So I think that should tell you everything you need to know about who they are.
It is very interesting. These young people certainly don't know what you're saying. I think we all got a little taste of socialism and authoritarianism during the pandemic, but seeing these young women take these prominent positions is a little bit scary for our future here in this country, and we're really grateful to people like you who give us a very clear picture of what that means.
Was socialism taught in the Bible?
See this? Socialism. All right, I'm going to touch on this for a few moments.
This morning, a new study shows marijuana and hallucinogen use among young adults 19 to 30 years old has increased significantly to the highest level since the late 80s. In 2021, 43% said they'd used marijuana in the past year, up
This
from
is what the
34%
world's
5 years
wanted.
ago,
This is
29%
not being
10 years ago.
sober-minded in the
Now
last
more than
day.
1 in
If
10
you are
say they
using
use
this,
marijuana every day.
you're committing
Recreational
sin.
marijuana
You're
use
putting
is
that
now
into
legal
the
for
temple of
adults in
God.
19 states and the District of Columbia. It's already a gigantic industry. $24 billion in legal sales last year, and that's expected to nearly double by 2026. Many advocates claim marijuana is as safe, if not safer, than alcohol, which is believed to contribute to tens of thousands of deaths every year. Researchers say they have seen some negative effects.
It is particularly concerning for teenagers and young adults who have developing brains that are particularly susceptible to the negative effects. Pretty much everybody who ends up having a problem with substance use started as a teenager and continued use as a young adult.
One trend growing increasingly popular, drinks made with THC, the active ingredient in marijuana.
Made with
Take the brand
THC.
Pabst Labs, a company selling infused beverages, marketing them as a great opportunity to experience a completely different kind of buzz without any hangover. Cannabis data company BDSA says in the 12 markets they track, sales of cannabis beverages increased 65% from 2020 to 2021. Some doctors urge caution, saying you may not know exactly what's in the drink or how it might affect you, and that the beverages are both understudied and underregulated.
There is no.
You hearing that? That is not being sober-minded in the last days.
Fortunately, but those who pipe up from time to time to speak obvious common sense, like probably not a good idea to castrate your kids, get landed on by everybody. And we inevitably want to talk to them because it takes a lot of brass to do that. It's the right thing to do. Here's a pretty amazing story. Brittany Aldean is the wife of country music star Jason Aldean. Recently, she uploaded a video to Instagram and showed her putting on makeup. It's on your screen right now. And then she added this caption to the footage, and we're quoting, "I'd really like to thank my parents for not changing my gender."
I won't defend the fact that she's wearing makeup because that goes against the Bible. That is a false face. That's deception and putting on all that fake stuff, and we're not supposed to be adorning ourselves like that. So I won't defend that, but what she says, I get. So pay close attention.
When I went through my tomboy phase, I love this girly life. And then her husband responded with this caption. He wrote, quote, "I'm glad they didn't too, because you and I wouldn't have worked out." That was it. Now, no sane society would have a problem with or even notice words like that. But in 2022, this is a thought crime. You're required to believe that minors should be castrated by their parents. So there was massive backlash online. A country music singer called Cassidy Pope accused Aldean of wronging LGBTQ plus people for writing that. And then a lunatic called Maren Morris, some kind of fake country music singer, went all the way. She wrote this: "It's so easy to be like not a scumbag human. Sell your clip-ins and zip it insurrection Barbie." And then, of course, Brittany Aldean was attacked up and down the American media for telling a transphobic joke, which they never quoted at all. You had no idea what she said. We just showed you what she said. They really attacked her. To her great credit, she's not backing down. In fact, she's got a new clothing line out called Don't Tread on Kids, and we are honored to have Brittany Aldean join us today. The more I read about this, the more I was legitimately shocked by the dishonesty of the response, by the viciousness, especially from that second woman. Awful. Were you surprised by this?
Yes, I was extremely surprised. In saying my response, I never thought that there was anything wrong with it. I think I'm advocating for children. I think that children should not be allowed to make these life-changing decisions at such a young age. They are not mature enough. They should have parents that love them and advocate for them regardless. We have ages on.
They should have parents that advocate for them regardless. I'm sorry, I don't care what your age is. Jesus doesn't make mistakes. You should not be changing your gender. I will cover more of this in the next part.